this may seem like kind of an odd topic, especially for the first one of the year, but it's just something that sprung to mind here a while back. I'm not even exactly sure why. I guess as we're getting towards the Super Bowl, a lot of sports heavy talk on TV and stuff like that. But I was wondering, have you ever sports cried? And if you don't know what sports crying is, it's actually kind of an open-ended definition. It's in a nutshell, it's just crying over something related to sports, even if it's a happy occasion. A good example of sports crying that I always think about is Dirk Nowitzki. When the Dallas Mavericks finally won the NBA championship, I think what was that, in 2011, I guess. He knew he was getting toward the end of his career. It was kind of looked at as his last best chance to win an NBA championship. When the game was over, he headed toward the locker room, and the cameras were on him, of course. He's kind of covering his face with his shirt, his jersey a little bit. And I think everybody knew the reason being he was sports crying. After all this hard work and all this build-up, and they finally made it, he was crying over this victory. And you might kind of think, okay, it kind of makes sense for a player to do that. If it's basketball, baseball, football, hockey, whatever, they work their entire careers toward this and they finally get there. But why would a fan do it? But when you think about it, if you're a fan of a team, you're there before these players get there, you're there after they're gone. The fans are really associated with this team longer than the players. For me, some of my earliest memories of life are centered on Texas Rangers baseball. Because the team moved, they were originally the Washington Senators, and in 1972, that franchise moved to Texas, became the Texas Rangers. I was not quite 4 years old when they moved here, but I was actually at their first game. I couldn't tell you a thing that happened in that game. I remember being there, I remember looking on the field, I remember seeing the players, but I was so young, and the drive home, actually, I have more vivid memories of the drive home than I do the game itself. But I have literally grown up with that team. And of course, my uncle was one of their very first season ticket holders. And so it's just kind of ingrained in me. It's part of my existence, part of my life. As far back as I can remember, I was talking Texas Rangers baseball. And boy, I tell you what, Texas Rangers fans know this. If you've been around, especially for the entire existence of the team, we've suffered. That little Arlington Stadium, which a lot of us called that minor league ballpark, it was basically an old high school field they put a wall up around, basically. And they played in that for over 20 years. And of course, as a kid, I had no idea that the team was kind of a laughing stock around the league. Didn't realize that every place else kind of rolled their eyes at the Texas Rangers and their stadium and all that. And with all those hot summers at old Arlington Stadium and all those years that finishing anywhere over fourth in a 7-team division was considered a success. The teases along the way, in 74 they finished second. The 1981 season, when the players went on strike and they missed almost 60 games that year. When the strike hit, the Rangers were a half a game out of first place. And when they came back from the strike, the bats went ice cold, and it just didn't work out. 1983, they were in first place at the All-Star break, which was a big thing for a long time. I don't know, I guess it still kind of is. But then in the second half of the season, everything fell apart, and the White Sox ended up winning the American League West. You get into the 90s, Rangers as a matter of fact, another strike year. 94 was another strike year. That was the year that the players went on strike and ended up canceling the rest of the season. when they went on strike, the Rangers were in first place. What could have potentially been the team's first division title. Finally, in the, I guess it was 96? Is that it, 96? They finally won a division, won their very first playoff game, and then nothing from there. And then we won a couple of more divisions after that. And yes, I have a mouse in my pocket. But we never could get past that first round of playoffs. And things went back downhill again. Well, by 2010, you started looking at the landscape of baseball, and the Rangers were one of those teams that they were on a very short list of teams that had never been to the World Series. Yeah, and as we sat there and we watched teams like the Marlins and the Diamondbacks that were new, not only going to the World Series but winning the World Series, and we're sitting here, 40 years in, going, when's it going to happen for us? And so in 2010, I had my first case of sports crying. Now I've never cried over a loss. The sports crying is over a loss as well. I never shed tears over a loss. But in 2010, the Rangers won their first playoff series. Because they expanded the playoffs. You had 2 rounds of playoffs before you got to the World Series. The Rangers beat the Rays in the first round. I was like, hey, that's cool, but we can't stop here. And I was saying, we're going to the World Series this year. And they played the Yankees in the American League Championship Series. I was making a little bit better money back then, and I actually got a ticket to go to Game 1 of the 2010 American League Championship Series. Rangers lost that game. Enough about that. But they went on and they won the series. And I had to go to work. I had to work the night of the deciding game. Of course, I still had Dish Network at the time, and went over to ESPN, waited for the highlights, and finally got to see that last pitch and Neftali Feliz and the celebration after. And I got a little teary-eyed. I technically sports cried. I got a little teary-eyed when that happened. I was thinking about my uncle that was the season ticket holder. He passed away in 1977. And when I saw the celebration, they finally going to the World Series, I got a little teary-eyed. But that was not the full-fledged sports crying. It was the next day. Because back when I was younger, where I live, we didn't get we were lucky to get maybe 20 Rangers games a year, and they were all road games that played, I think, on Channel 11. And so I would rely heavily on the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. And so as I was heading into work that day, I said, I got to stop and get a Fort Worth Star-Telegram, even though I hadn't bought one in a long, long time. And there they were on the front page and everything, and got to the sports section, and I've still got that newspaper somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is. I couldn't find it. I was hoping maybe I could read that a little bit, but I read the first paragraph of that article, and it was basically just saying, after 40 years of disappointments and this and that and the other, the Texas Rangers finally going to the World Series. I lost it. Sitting in the parking lot at work, because I'd stopped at the store just right down the road from work, and when I got there a little bit early, I was sitting in the parking lot reading this. Tears just pouring down my face over this, but it wasn't just, like I say, it's not just a baseball game. This was something that started when I was, like I say, my earliest memories of life involved this team. And the fact that my uncle was so into it, and I was close to my uncle, and he passed away, and he passed away long before he ever got to see it. And I spent all those years as the only kid around here wearing Texas. Everybody else is a football state. I'm the only one wearing Texas Rangers stuff, and got made fun of it a lot, but still wore it. Because that was my team. And they finally got to the World Series. And I'm sitting in the parking lot, bawling like a baby over it. So that was my first sports cry. even the next year when they got one strike away from winning the World Series, and it slipped away from them. Even that didn't bring tears. That brought major disappointment. But I didn't cry over it. I cried over the win. over all those years of waiting and being disappointed and being made fun of and all that, and just the fact that it was so ingrained in me to follow this team. So if you're willing, feel free to share your sports cry story. I think everybody's got one. Everybody's had something to do with sports, even if it was in high school, pee-wee, football, little league, college, whatever it is. Maybe you're one of those Cubs fans. That's one of the things here. Not long ago, I watched one of those compilation of Cubs fans, and it was the same thing. It's like, their grandfathers had passed away and never got to see it. So I know how that is. But anyway, that's my sports crying story. I say share yours if you'd like. I know this is going to end up going longer than I want it to. I have no idea how I'm going to cut this down, but just real quick, coming up on the channel, I did want to mention I had planned on getting another YouTube suggestions out before now, but I've been sick, and I'm just now getting where my voice kind of mostly sounds normal. I sounded like Froggy from the Little Rascals there for a while. I think probably in a couple of weeks I'm going to have that up. Also thinking about making some changes. I may change my upload day. I don't know for sure if I'm going to do that or not. I'm thinking about changing it to Friday. I'm not sure. I got all nice and settled, and then my work schedule changed and everything, and I'm thinking Friday might be a better day for me. But anyway, so another YouTube suggestions coming up. But to close this one out, during Christmas, a few of us got together and did a kind of a gift exchange. We sent each other ornaments. I think the plan was to have a live stream and everybody open their packages at the same time. That didn't really happen. I think we were supposed to do a little video clip, and Amy from What Paranormal was going to put together just one big video of everybody opening their ornaments, and that didn't really happen. But I wanted to share with you, Sherry drew my name, and she sent me a Christmas ornament. So here to close it out, I'm going to share the opening of that package with you. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the ride. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, not necessarily in that order, and I'll see you next time. Okay, I didn't know exactly how Amy had planned on doing this. Multitasking again, doing laundry. But this is the box that Sherry sent me, or Sari. So I'm just going to shoot this. No cuts and no edits. What? Except that one. Of course, like I said, I don't know exactly how she's doing this, how public she's going to go. But for those that don't know, a few of us got together and decided to do an ornament exchange. Oh, there we go. It's from the world's largest Christmas store. Oh, and I get a candy cane too. Bonus. Okay, how many boxes am I going to Oh, it's kind of heavy for an ornament. Oh, it's a little deal of Michigan. Get all that out of the way. She sent me the mitt. That's pretty. I don't have any Michigan stuff around the house. Not that I've never had any reason to have any Michigan stuff around the house. So that's pretty cool. Got a little snowman on there, and I guess that's. I guess that's the Great Lake. That's Lake Michigan, I guess. I don't know that much about Michigan. Okay. That's from Sherry. Thank you, Sherry. Anytime I want to go around the mitt, I can just do it now.